Wrestling fans, Boston Wrestling MWF Summer of 7 p.m., 7 nights a week has exploded online. Join the superstars and legends on Wrestling Insiders every night at 7 p.m. Spread the word. As first reported to our Boston Wrestling MWF family on Patreon, big things are happening as we wrap up our biggest spring ever and kick off our Summer of 7 p.m. beginning Memorial Day night, when brand new Wrestling Insider episodes premiere at 7 p.m., 7 days per week. We also kick off our Make-A-Wish Drive in high gear to help grant wishes to awesome kids that have been waiting over a year in many cases. After an Extreme Saturday with New Jack and a Demolition doubleheader with Axe, put the women and children to bed. As fresh from the Shawn Michaels A&E biography, Marty Jannetty returns for a Party with Marty triple header, Friday, June 18th, Saturday, June 19th, and then joining us again for the WWE Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, Sunday, June the 20th, taping episodes of Wrestling Insiders, watch-alongs, and cyber autograph signings. It's going to be a huge weekend that demands fan involvement. Head on over to BostonWrestling.com for complete information and pre-ordering option. Let's help keep wrestling legends working and great wrestling talk show content being produced. We can't do it without you. Help us explode into summer. 7 nights a week at 7 p.m. Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm John Cena Sr.
Johnny, the momentum here in Boston Wrestling continues as we continue to build and build and build. The fans want to know, how do we help? We subscribe to the Patreon, but we see all the great merchandise on that set. Coronavirus may have killed the nightlife, especially for someone like Marty, but our acclaimed eBay store is open 24/7 around the world.
Wow. Check it out.
Support Wrestling Insiders in-studio shoot interviews on eBay with this brand new personally autographed WWE Royal Rumble 2021 11x14 poster signed by WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, his advocate Paul Heyman, and Kevin Owens. Reigns and Owens battled for the Universal title in a last standing match January 31st in the Thunderdome in Tampa. This limited edition collector's poster is number 31 of only 50 produced. Comes with WWE authentication hologram on the poster itself. Also comes with an on-air shout-out from WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas and a bonus autographed 8x10 photo. Get this rare, awesome collectible for your man cave and help keep wrestling legends working now. Boston Wrestling Sports and the MWF explodes into a new year of unknown with professional wrestling content galore, and we need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after we review the previous night's Monday Night Raw, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with the unpredictable WWE Hall of Famer, Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights after WWE, NXT, and AEW at 10 p.m., you never know who's going to show up on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll journey through the 80s and 90s on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday nights after the lights go down at the Thunderdome on SmackDown, it's John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. If you want early, ad-free access to all of our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed studio shoot interview DVD library, and to help keep wrestling legends working during the worst of times, for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, we wish you a pleasant Sunday night from here in downtown Melrose, Massachusetts, the zip code of champions. It is another installment of Wrestling Insiders Stern but Fair. Dan Marty here to try and navigate the ship along with the man, the former Boston Wrestling MWF Heavyweight Champion, now a member of the BOD himself, Mr. Tiger Mulligan. Tiger, a pleasure to join you yet on another fine Spring Sunday.
It's a hot day. I don't know if it's spring. It seems like summer. It's like 92 degrees down
Oh,
here.
it's that hot down there, too? It's unbelievable. Last week, I don't know if I mentioned it when we were doing the show, but, you know, we didn't even hit 50, I don't think, on Memorial Day weekend a couple of the days. It was so rainy and raw out. Now, you know, I don't want to scare away the neighbors here at the studio, but I was ready to take my shirt off. I was so warm coming in. So
yeah, you would scare me down here in New Jersey.
Probably. They think it was a Sasquatch walking in. But anyway, another interesting week in the world of professional wrestling, believe it or not. I'm blown away. Who would have ever thought there might have been a quiet week?
Well, I mean, I don't think anything really went on, do you?
Yeah, since I went to bed last night around 2 a.m.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a very interesting week, and I think everybody heard it first from me a while back, especially on this podcast, but in social media as well. I'm telling you right now, WWE is gearing up to make a sale. It might not be tomorrow, might not be the next day, but I would say within the next year, maybe year and a half, WWE is getting sold. And I think the telling tale was this week with all their budget cuts.
I think and I agree with you, I'm about 99% of the way there. My only thought is I think it may be a little bit longer than that, just due to the nature that they still have the long-term deal with Fox going through October of 2023. I don't know how eager Fox would be to promote an NBC-owned company across their platforms. You know what I mean?
No, how long do they have on that deal? Do you know?
Until October of 23.
23? Okay, so I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't know how deals like that go down and how the logistics of it work, but I'm just going to be perfectly straight up honest with you. They're getting sold. I'm not sure who's going to buy it. Maybe NBC, maybe Disney. I don't know, but they're getting sold. Vince McMahon's gonna take a hiatus. He's
a hiatus. Is that what they're gonna call it?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest,
a lot of people at 77 take a hiatus.
I could see this happening. I could see Vince or whomever selling, and then taking some of that profit. It's gonna be what, 3 or 4 billion to sell it, and then actually opening another privately owned company. And maybe having some competition that way.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Oh, well, you know what? There's a lot of no-competes that go into that. So I think you may be a little too pie high in the sky on that one. Not to think that maybe it hasn't gone through their heads, but
yeah.
You know, the one thing I always thought maybe they'd want to try and do is almost reinvent the wheel from the beginning and turn WWE into its own NFL, Major League Baseball, and so on and so forth, where you have you know, the equivalent of 30 different teams, so to speak, almost reinvent the territorial system under the WWE banner, the way through the vision of Stamford, Connecticut, and the McMahons. I think that would have been very interesting. I never heard of it actually happening. The closest that ever happened probably would have been, I think it was the fall of either 05 or 06, because I still really had a major pulse on what was going on down there, because I had many more friends working in the office than I do now. But Shane had wanted to try and do something similar to that, not in the United States, but all over the world.
Yeah.
And then once that idea kind of got shut down, and his idea to buy UFC kind of got shut down, he said, well, surprise, I'm leaving. And
yeah, and then look what happens.
Many jaws dropped that day when Shane O'Mac said ta-ta and cashed in about $50 million worth of stock that he probably wishes he had right about now as he went into the Chinese pay-per-view world. For those that are wondering where he went for those several years.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, I don't know what he's doing with that anymore. I mean, does he own part of that world, or was he just,
from what
CEO?
From what I know, it was a disaster. It went bad. It was XFL-ish.
Really? Oh, wow.
The Chinese were not ready for pay-per-view movies.
That's interesting because, I mean, he was doing that for a long time, wasn't he? When did he leave? In 06?
It was either, I'm going to say, without having Google in front of me, 06, because I remember that they did that. When they did the USA Homecoming in the fall of 05, they tried to set up that hideous Austin McMahon's Jim Ross feud. I don't
Right.
know if you remember that. So I remember it was the fall. I remember it was, yeah, and he worked '06 too because they did those the DX and McMahon feud. So I think it was the fall of '06.
Okay.
And
So,
then
I
Linda
mean,
was
and then-
gone, and I think 2 years later after that to begin her political career.
Her failed political career.
Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on how one looks at it. You could take the observation of spending $100 million on 2 elections that you didn't win, or look at where she wound up in Donald Trump's cabinet. Would you consider that success?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't follow it, so I don't know what
Yeah.
she really actually did when she was there.
Well, you are a
'cause I don't-
Connecticut native.
I am, but politics is. I don't even know. It ranks up there with death. I hate it. I'm not
Yeah.
a big fan of politics. I'll watch when I need to watch and I'll form my own opinion. But
Now,
I hate speaking about politics.
What makes you need to watch, out of curiosity?
I mean, if I see something funny like on social media that I feel like, I need to kind of chime into this a little bit more,
Mhm.
I'll go to a news site and take a look at it.
Do a little research.
But it's again, man, it's like you go to watch one thing, they'll say something on Fox, and then NBC will contradict it, and CNN will contradict both of them, and it's just like, okay, I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm not even gonna really watch it. So I try not to delve too much into that crap.
Well, I hope that Linda wasn't offended this week if she tuned into Wrestling Insider's Party with Marty, where Marty shared the thought that he once thought about having rough sex with Linda.
I'm sure she would enjoy that, though.
He was a little angry with her about some comments he heard her make to Shane about the McMahon should not be associated with the hired help, and I guess that was Marty's revenge. To think it, not say it, which may have been a first.
It's crazy because, I mean, look at her own daughter. I mean, she married the hired help.
Yeah,
So.
well, no kidding, right?
and geez, well, this is a different story for a different day, but I've heard some crazy ass stories about Stephanie McMahon, but we'll just kind of keep it at that.
All right, we'll save that for a day when it's a much quieter week.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to it. Lot of budget cuts. A lot of people find themselves on the unemployment line. And some of the names kind of surprised me, but when you look at somebody like Braun Strowman and how much money he was getting paid, that doesn't surprise me that he was gone. Ruby Riott. I don't know.
I don't think
they weren't doing anything.
I don't
with
think
her.
they were worried too much about what that one was making.
Well, no, but at the same time, it kills me because you can't find anything for her to do. In ring wise, she's great. I mean, she's not anything to really look at, but in ring, I thought she's one of the better ones. And then, I've heard that she's very well liked backstage, gets along with everybody, very friendly and cordial, polite, professional. So that's kind of somebody that you want on your team. So that one I kind of scratched my head at. A couple of the other ones, Lana should have been gone a while ago. They weren't casting her correctly anyway. She's not an in-ring performer. They need to keep her on the microphone. So I could give or take that. I can't even really think of who else right now off the top of my head.
Yeah, Aleister Black.
But, again, he right now is just missing something. I know they're kind of ramping him up and
Television
doing all those vignettes.
time.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess only time will tell with him. But I think he was, even on the time that he got and some of the vignettes he was doing, I don't know. Maybe I just don't give it enough time to let it digest. But he just wasn't really doing it for me. Now, in ring wise, I think he's incredible. He's a great performer. But that can only take you so far in this world.
Well, when he started to do that casket gimmick that he brought with him from NXT, he was very over when he first debuted. Him and Ricochet at the same time were both over, very strong, and they both wound up going into no man's land for whatever the reason may be. I still say it, and I shared it with a WWE talent at the time. I said the luckiest person out of the 4 they brought up, which were Aleister, Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso, was Tommaso for breaking his neck. Not that you ever wish anyone to break their neck, but, I mean, can you imagine the position he may be in right now if he remained on the active roster over the past 2+ years to have potentially all of his value diminished and or out of a job?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, again, for me, I look at it as I don't know. I don't know how they think because I don't like their product. So obviously, whatever they're doing, I don't understand. So a lot of these things that they're doing right now, I just don't get. Budget cuts that's the real truth behind it. But I think it has to do with this. What's his name? Nick Khan, I believe his name is, and
Yes.
he's really just trying to make a name for himself and kind of wave his unit around to say, hey, look at me, I got big balls, and this is what we're gonna do. So who knows? I mean, I don't think this guy knows the business the way that he should for the position that he's in, and it shows with ratings, it shows with who he's getting rid of. If you're going to
at the same time, you know what? I think you make a lot of valid points, but as far as TV ratings, to try and get to reverse that Titanic, that's something that a process that would take years. That would take a new Austin or a Rock to get hot, and to try and cultivate them and get them over to a whole new fan base. So as you've seen with the ratings, even when WWF I thought was the much better product in 1997 as far as the storylines went, they were getting decimated each week by Nitro week to week. So, TV ratings are usually the last turnaround that you see to come when it comes to an improvement of the product. And I don't think Nick Khan is going to play much of a hand in that. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, he's not, and you're totally 100% right when you need that person to help, bring things around. But that's not the way they go. They push pro wrestling, or they push WWE. They don't push the characters and try to build up the storylines to have an Austin or a Rock or a Cena. There hasn't been anybody since Cena, and that's just all them and how they write TV and how they do things. So, hey, they're making millions every year. That's for them to do. It's Vince McMahon's ice cream shop, so he gets to run it however he wants. Unfortunately, it's just not something that I like to watch anymore.
What about Murphy?
So here's the thing with Murphy. Again, he's somebody that is very, very talented in the ring. Mic time, he hasn't gotten a lot of it. I don't see why you can't find somebody to write something for him. I don't know how his backstage politics were. Maybe he just was that type of guy who didn't open his mouth. Or maybe it was vice versa, where he opened his mouth too much and, it just didn't do well for him. But if you're going to sit there and say that you can't find something for him to do, then you got the wrong writers writing for you, or people booking the stuff. But at the same time, he's missing stuff. He's missing something.
Yeah.
He's missing that it factor.
I think
he just didn't have it.
I think they tried. That would have been the fall of 2019 when they put him with Rollins and Authors of Pain in that faction. And what I saw was a guy that is technically very sound and can put together good wrestling matches. But 100%. Other than that, there was just absolutely zero interest of anything that he did to me.
Yeah, no, there's no character behind it. Like, well, who?
He's Murphy.
When I look at somebody,
he doesn't even have a first name.
Yeah, well, but that's the other thing is they took his name away. I mean, his first name was Buddy Murphy, so I don't know if that's going to help him out in any way.
I thought it was Blake. No.
No,
it was
Buddy?
It?
Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake.
That's where I got. Okay, that's where I got Blake from. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Blake is down in Impact now or somewhere, but it's again he's just missing that it factor. You can only get so far on in-ring ability alone. You need to have a character. There's no, what is a Murphy? What is a? You can look at anything. What is a Ruby Riott? What is a Lana? These people just. If you don't have a character behind the name, then and you're just doing in-ring stuff, you might as well just be an enhancement talent at that point. I guess that's what he was.
And I'll tell you this, I was kind of surprised to see the name Santana Garrett on that list where, reasons are reasons to get rid of people, but to call that one a major force on the budget when she was making NXT money. Yeah. I mean, I thought she was kind of nice looking. I've seen far worse as far as in-ring goes. I was kind of surprised by that one.
Yeah, I mean, that especially with somebody that you're trying to mold into the next kind of crop. So it's why get rid of those people, give them time to develop. But again, it could have been something backstage, and who knows? Maybe she was making more than the average NXT person. I don't know. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, it wasn't six figures. I know that.
No, but most of those guys aren't. But again, $50,000 is still $50,000.
Well, I I just and this comes from someone that isn't a big fan of the women's wrestling, but I was really surprised to see that. Obviously, Strowman was the big one. I think he fell into the category of Gallows and Anderson, where it was just buyer's remorse.
Yeah,
it didn't. I think WWE was smart enough to realize, okay, AEW isn't going anywhere. They're signed to multiple years now. What will be on TBS with two television shows on Wednesday and Friday nights starting in January. Oh, no, the Friday night show starts August 13th. What am I saying? The move to TBS, I believe, comes in early 2022. No matter who WWE lets go of, it's not going to really hurt WWE. Can they invest those funds that they invested Strowman better in other places? Sure. I mean, could they? If it was me, though, I would have sat him down and said, look, this is the nature of the beast.
Yeah,
can we cut it? Can we lower it? Can we try and renegotiate it maybe? Let's do another 5 years now that we're a couple of years into the deal, but let's do it for a lower downside guarantee. So you're still getting dollars, but we're getting more longevity out of it. I don't know. I mean, Bronny's not exactly young in the tooth, but I wouldn't call him an old guy by any stretch of the imagination. I think the biggest problem with his was, along with the money, was just the overexposure. What is it with him that you haven't done yet that you could do?
And I was just about to say that is that he's on TV too much and he's not an attraction anymore. Somebody like that is that in that size, you need to use him in that kind of, I hate to compare him to Andrade, but use him like Andrade.
Yeah.
It's, when he comes in and actually does something, make it a point, make it worth something. Nowadays, they just don't know how to write the TV. They don't know how to write for specific characters. They just didn't know how to use him. It was overexposure. And you kind of knew he fell into that category where no matter how big and strong he is, you knew he was going to lose. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he had a good, had that WrestleMania showing. That match was terrible with Shane. The cage match, it was just, he didn't look good after coming out of that. And then there was no follow-up with it.
That was a tough position to be put in. I mean, if you were actually at that stadium that night, that was a rough night at the office for them, just to be able to get down to the ring. And granted, sure, I know Shane O'Mac, when he gets in there, he is reminiscent of Stone Cold and how little he sells and, and so on. He is Stone Cold Shane O'Mac. But I'm just looking at the rest of his body of work. I can't think of the last interesting thing that he did. I mean, he was in that meaningless feud with Seth Rogen there. What's his name? Sami Zayn last year. And then he...
Seth Rogen
magically wound up in the main event of WrestleMania after doing a job to Sami Zayn because Roman didn't want to be a part of the show. But, for the guy to go from the main event of WrestleMania 36 to potentially being down at Memorial Hall with us in Melrose for the 20th anniversary event, I think that's pretty sad for a guy that, I don't think he did himself any service by some of the comments he's made on social media about actual wrestling the past couple of years. Most people, they bite their tongues about things politically or things like that. His comments are more of a wrestling nature. And now, my God, for all the people that he insulted, unless he saved his money awfully well, those are the people that he will probably need to try and engage with for future employment. Now, one thing that's easily forgotten about in wrestling are comments like that, if someone can draw and make the money, but either that or maybe he'll try and challenge his father in the to go into the Softball Hall of Fame. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I did hear something like that, or maybe I saw it on his documentary.
His father is like the Babe Ruth of softball.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if he's got money and he saved it, because I think his downside was I'm going to say $1 million a year.
It was over. That was the problem. So, and there's very few guys that have. There's a bunch of guys that are at $1 million, but those that are. If I was someone that was at $1 million or over $1 million, and they weren't doing anything with me, I'd be a little nervous. Yeah. No, but here's the thing: is that the reason why these contracts are so high is, number one, when they were restructuring a lot of guys' contracts, a few years back to try to get people to stay, and the whole AEW started coming out and things like that, and then they were jacking up some of the NXT guys and restructuring those guys because they were going on TV live every week on USA. The problem is that there's no live events, and when they do have live events, they're not making any money off of those live events, and
Who knows how they do the pay structure now with their quote unquote pay-per-views. So you're not getting that buy rate off those pay-per-views anymore. So how are these guys going to make the big money?
That part is no different than going back to when the network launched in 2014. I think as far as that pot of gold goes, there would be more money now because the network is worth so much more now that they license at least the United States version of it to Peacock as opposed to what it was taking in itself. I mean, the network is worth more. The network is worth more now. Therefore, you'd think the pay-per-views would be worth more now. Therefore, you'd think that maybe you'd see a little bump.
See, but I disagree. I look at it differently. Where even if they sold the rights to the network for $50 billion, right, some astronomical number, once you pay that out, it's paid out. So you're not making anything out. You're not making anything off of these pay-per-views now or these monthly events because it's already paid. So
right, my point
get
is
more subscribers, but at the end of the day, it's already paid out.
But my point is that's how it's been since WrestleMania 30.
Right, but what I'm saying is now that since WrestleMania 30, you had all those guys that were locked into contracts and whatnot, so you couldn't do anything to change it. Now, when they start re-signing people or signing new people, they have to give that bigger downside guarantee because that money, that revenue is just not there anymore. It was already paid, so it's already in Vince's pocket. There's the only thing that I think that you could really get that extra bump nowadays is your merchandise deals, and God knows they're only making pennies on the dollar from that.
Oh, that's compared to where it was.
Yeah,
a scary thing as far as the merchandising and even the third-party licensees that they have. But that's a very in-depth conversation that I don't know if the fans would be interested in on a Sunday night. But I mean, in the end of the day, other than Lana, I really don't think there was a reason to get rid of any of them.
But why not get rid of Lana? What was she doing?
No, she's the only one on that list that I would have.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I would have been tried to cut the head off of. I think she's atrocious in the ring, and she was magical with Rusev. I'll give her that. So she should go be with Rusev.
Yeah.
But Strowman, though, you know what
I agree with you.
They send me from intel from time to time, and I don't know if Strowman was a top 10 guy overall, but I think he was a top 10 of the current guys as far as the merchandise guys go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, certainly not someone with little value, certainly someone they were making money off of, but like you alluded to, one of the big losses were those live events. On paper, when you look at ticket sales, were they just breaking even? Were they maybe losing a little bit of money? Sure. But one thing that WWE is very wise about when, to try and sometimes feed their talent the information that they want to feed them is how profitable those events would become once you included the merchandise sold at those events.
Yes.
When you add in, just say, the average of $10 a head, you're talking an extra 40, 50 grand on top of that for T-shirts that cost, maybe $1 or $2 to make. Yeah. So I mean, the merchandising is a very, very profitable component of those live events, and
it's too bad though because it's profitable for the actual company. It's just not profitable for the wrestler, and that kind of sucks. But it is what it is.
Another idea that I had discussions with people there before is I don't understand why outside of maybe your top 20 to 30 talents, why not just sign everybody to TV exclusive deals where they're not featured, they're not going to, not to say that they're not going to be featured, but they're not someone you're going to build a pay-per-view main event around that's going to be killed if they get injured, if they go off and work an independent show on a Saturday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sign them to cheaper deals where they're only guaranteed those 52 TV shots a year, and then on the other 3 days, let them do independents, let them do conventions, let them do autograph signings, let them do whatever they want, and you have a bunch of guys that would probably be very happy to make 75, 100 grand a year for 1 day's work. Now, I mean, granted, that's pretty much what they've had since the virus kicked in, but I'm talking about this is something I suggested eons ago because it's just a lot of them, you don't need them.
Yeah, I think
full-time.
I think the problem with that is, and it goes back to ego. So you have somebody like a Murphy, right? Just because I have him up on my screen right now.
Yeah.
You have somebody like a Murphy. You sign him to, like you said, 75 grand a year for the 52 shots. And then you let him do independence. even though they don't see much in him, perhaps, or they don't really have anything planned for him, and he's just going to kind of do the honors for people every week or every other week or whatever the case might be. They don't want him to end up meeting up with somebody from, say, AEW. Say he works a Jungle Boy on an independent somewhere. They don't want him going down. They want him going up. And if they can't control that, are gonna feel like, oh, that's gonna make our product look inferior and weak, and we don't want that to happen. And I think that's the bottom line of it.
There's some validity to that, but even when they would do third-party bookings much more often than they do now, I mean, there were certain rules and regs that went along with it, and I mean, them not losing to a non-WWE personnel could have been. I'll say this, you know what I thought was funny? When we had Daniel Bryan, when he was the United States champion, they didn't place one rule or regulation on it. I was actually shocked by that, to be honest. Maybe it was because they trusted us, but
yeah,
I thought we were going to get a whole booklet of cans and can'ts, and we didn't get one other than, he'll be at the airport at whatever time he showed it at from the house show the night before, which I thought was nice of Mr. Laurinaitis.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a good way to actually save a lot of money.
A lot of money.
But at the same time, do people get upset with, like, does a Murphy say, oh, well, if you only see me as somebody that's going to be doing jobs 52 weeks a year, I don't want to work for you, and then they end up leaving, going somewhere else?
What do you lose at that point?
Yeah, I guess you don't lose much.
Right now, let's per se, we'll use Murphy as an example. If they tried to do that with him, you'd have a mid-card guy that could have decent matches on Raw or SmackDown or main event, and that would pretty much be it. And that's pretty much where he was, only now you'd be saving a couple $100,000 and still have access to him as a commodity to put on one of those shows.
I mean, I guess in a sense it would be kind of like that Barry Horowitz deal, or those old time jobbers where Barry Horowitz was getting jobbed out every week, and I don't know how much he was making, but I'm sure he was doing well for himself to do those TVs and then do the independents thereafter. I mean, why not? It's not going to hurt anything. It's probably, and who knows? Maybe somebody gets some steam from being on TV and even doing the honors. If you have decent matches and you're not, I wouldn't say highlighted, but you're actually giving a good showing, who knows? You might gain some steam from it, and then you actually gain something out of it.
Yeah, and then, of course, and you could include the caveat that WWE has the right to expand upon the deal, and so WWE is smart enough where they're always going to come out on top no matter what the situation.
Of course.
My only thought is, when you look at the sale, could you see a move in the whole independent contractor structure if an NBC or an ABC or Disney were to take over?
Yeah, they wouldn't be independent contractors anymore. They'd be employees.
Well, that might be for the best, for many reasons.
Yes and no, because the reason why they're still independent contractors is because it doesn't cost them the company money as far as things like insurances and 401ks and all that kind of crap. There's a lot more logistics to go into it when you make them an employee, and it puts the company more at risk to get sued if something happens to the employee. And then human resources has to get involved, and there's a lot to digest when it comes to stuff like that. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe they do go that route. But you would see a lot less people under contract. You would see a lot less people. You would see. I think it would
imagine? If they were if it just continues.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I want to imagine.
I mean, think of how fresh Raw and SmackDown could look if they didn't get rid of any of the people they've gotten rid of since the virus took a hold of the world a year and a half ago. I mean, you'd be talking about another 40 or so talents they'd have to play with to freshen up those TV shows.
Yeah, but they wouldn't do it. That's the whole problem, is they got rid of those guys because they knew they were never going to use them. In some cases, you know what I mean? They have a whole caveat worth of people. They can go into the ice cream shop whenever they want and get whatever flavor they want, but they just don't do it. They just continue doing what they're doing and try to make it stick, but it's just not sticking. And that's the unfortunate thing for a lot of the wrestlers.
Well, I'm going to ask you this from an MWF point of view. Now that it looks like we're going to be returning to the normal world, we're going to be back in business with big-time live events, including our 20th anniversary a couple of blocks from here at Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts, Saturday night, November the 13th. from the list this week of who got the axe, who would you like to see with us at some point?
You know what? It's hard. So like I like somebody like a Ruby Riott. I think she's going to bring good quality matches and get the intrigue there. I like, even in that same token, a Murphy, somebody like that. But I think if you're looking for a marquee guy or girl to sell tickets, you got to go with somebody like a Braun Strowman, who could actually probably bring some people in, especially with like the kids. I think the kids could flock to that, but again, who knows? Because who knows what these guys are even going to ask for as far as paydays.
Exactly. You know what I mean? From a financial point of view, I think Strowman would probably be out of our league. I mean, this is a guy that I imagine would be not looking for any less than 5 figures to come in for an appearance.
Which is
upon
ridiculous.
What he was making. Well, I mean, based upon what he was making.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to a lot of these people, that have been released may or may not have even seen what the independents are like. And
there's been so few, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, Strowman, he came in, he didn't work the independents before he was, working for WWE. I know Ruby Riott
I see what you mean. Okay.
They don't know what to expect, so they're going to be asking these astronomical prices, and they're going to end up sitting at home with no money.
Right. He never was an independent guy. He just came from the world of bodybuilding and softball, and he came. Yeah, and
it's tough because will he be a hustler? Like an independent wrestler needs to hustle. They need to get their merchandise. They got to bring it. They got to set it up. They got to sell it themselves. And it's hard. It's hard work. It's not easy. And I just don't see a lot of guys like that really wanting to put in the time, effort, and energy to do something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am.
Very seldom. But wrestling fans, right now we're getting a cue from the back. We're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, we'll have more of your Sunday night favorite, Wrestling Insiders, Stern but Fair. Stand by.
WWE is coming home to Kansas City with Monday Night Raw. WWE is back with Monday Night Raw in Kansas City, Monday, July 26th. Tickets on sale now.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, I'm Dan Marty.
And I'm Mr. USA WWE Hall of Famer Tony Atlas.
The road to WrestleMania has begun. Wrestling fans are looking to add to their man caves. You got to see what we have in the eBay store.
Check it out.
Support Wrestling Insiders and keep wrestling legends working on eBay. Get this WWE NXT TakeOver War Games 2020 11x14 limited edition autographed poster signed by everyone on the event. Number 23 of only 100 made. Includes signatures from the Undisputed Era, Johnny Gargano, Damian Priest, Tommaso Ciampa, Timothy Thatcher, Io Shirai, Tony Storm, Rhea Ripley, Dexter, Loomis, and more. Comes with authentication hologram on the back of the poster. Also comes with mystery autographed 8x10 and an on-air shout-out from WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas on Wrestling Insiders at your house. Get it now. Wrestling fans, especially here in the Boston area, we want to thank our great friends at Red Rose for their support for all of our charitable endeavors and programming efforts. Red Rose is 2 years young and extremely thankful for all the support they've had from our neighbors here in Melrose and beyond for an amazing first 2 years. Red Rose thanks Melrose and all of the first responders who have fought the good fight and have never given up hope during these unprecedented times. We did it together. Follow Red Rose on Facebook for their anniversary special, facebook.com/Red Rose Melrose. You'll be glad you did. Open until 2 a.m. Red Rose will give you fresh, piping hot, mouth-watering food that'll put an ear-to-ear smile on even the toughest critic's face. Check out their full menu online at redrosema.com or give them a call, 781-620-1889. All right, wrestling fans, welcome back to Wrestling Insiders, Stern but Fair. Again, it is a big week here in the world of Boston wrestling. The Summer of 7 has begun, where every night at 7 p.m. we have a brand new show coming your way. Spread the word loud, share those links across social media, all those great things you can do. so we can help keep wrestling legends working as we attempt to do Saturday night, November the 13th, as we go back to the 80s as part of WrestleFest. But I ask you this, Mr. Mulligan, as part of our 20th anniversary celebration this fall, John Cena Sr. has made no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He wants to launch this FWW, this fabulous world of women's wrestling.
Wow.
And you know me,
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, he's an odd guy, right? So he's an introvert, and he likes what he likes. If he's going to help maybe fund it, I'd be willing to bring it up at the board of directors meeting and maybe help his cause. But if he wants the MWF to really be the money people behind it, I just don't see it, man. So he's going to have to take a back seat.
Well, he is eager for it to take place in the fall. Other than that, I do not know when. What do you think of the prospects of just a fully loaded women's live event?
So here's the thing. I love wrestling, and I would probably go watch pretty much anything, but I don't feel like I'm the norm, right? So unless you have somebody like, I don't know, a Ronda Rousey as your headliner, I don't think people are going to go and watch just an all-girls show. I don't know if they're still around, but what was it, Shimmer? I think they were all girls, right? At one point.
I've never seen it, but I'm familiar with the name and what they do.
So, I don't know how well they ever did. I know that they filmed some stuff in New Jersey. I never went. I never really saw any of it. I don't know. So would it work? Probably not. But who knows? I mean,
you think Johnny's setting us up for disaster again?
Honestly, I think Johnny just wants to see a bunch of females around him. It's just what it is. He's an old horny man, and that needs to have the females around him. Wow. So I'll give him that. Wow. But hey, listen, I just don't know if it will work. Now, is it worth trying? Sure, why not? I mean, it's something different. Maybe that's what the world needs. But again, I don't know. There's not a lot of talented female performers out there on the independent scene or within, say, an AEW that are allowed to work independents that you could really carry a show. I just don't know if it's there. It has enough name value to get people in the seats.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how it rolls out, so to speak. Again, I'm sure I'm going to be heavily involved in a project that I knew nothing of, and really, well, I'm not going to say too much. I'll try and be PC about it, but it will be interesting to see how it eventually unfolds. Any women from the recent releases you'd like to see in the fabulous women of wrestling?
You know what? I'll have to go back to Ruby Riott. I think that she would be one that you would have to put on there. Lana, I could, if she's there in an aspect of non-worker and just maybe for an appearance or as a manager, fine. But I don't want to watch her in the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, other than that, I mean, maybe Serena Deeb. Yeah, you could bring her in. Sure. I mean, she's very talented, and she could get the job done. But other than that, I really just don't. I don't know. I just don't know if it's something that people want to even see.
Where Johnny has had what you may call romantic interactions with Majo Ouellette, do you think perhaps maybe we could see a crossover from Ms. and Mrs. in the FWW?
I mean, it's anything's possible. I'm not gonna completely take it off the table. But
would you like to see Majo?
I mean, I know. And me personally, no. I mean, you know what? Here, let me put it this way: if it's the crazy Marjo that's on that Ms. and Mrs. show, maybe. I mean, she does some funny stuff that makes me chuckle. Yeah. So I'd be interested to see what type of train wreck it's going to be. I don't know. Well, I'd buy a ticket to go see it, though.
I think the in-ring action is out of the equation, but Johnny said there's still a lot of action otherwise. But that's a different story for a different time, I guess.
Maybe Johnny's looking to bring back a bra and panties match or a pillow fight match or something along those lines.
They can take the pillow and suffocate me with it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of the FWW. But no, I'm trying to be open-minded about it. I mean,
hey,
you know what? There may be a lot of fans of it out there, but I think my point was proven. I'm not sure if we discussed it on the show. as part of Trash Bag Gate when Mickie James did one of her post-release interviews when she tried to take the idea that I had in trying to create an all WWE Women's Hour wrestling show each week, and was told by a very, very high-ranking official, that's all well and good, but, we tried Evolution pay-per-view, and it was the least-watched pay-per-view in the history of the company. We make no money off of the women, so that didn't exactly inspire hope, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, I think I read something earlier this week. Was it Mickie James that perhaps went out and said that it was Mark Carrano saying that it would never happen again, and it basically just said exactly what you just said. I'm not sure if that was what I read or if it was somebody else that I read it about, but I just, if WWE doesn't really want to back it, then I just don't think that is really going to do anything, to be perfectly honest with you.
You don't think Cena Sr. is the man to get this job done?
No, I don't. I highly, I had my issues with Cena Sr. in the past in the MWF. I don't think that he could, he's never really reached the brass ring, and I don't think he's going to be able to get it this time either.
Well, we're in for an interesting fall, I know that much. Did we talk about... I know we talked about all the last crop of releases that came up a few weeks ago, but did we talk about everything that's gone, or the rumor mill, I should say, is probably the best way to word it, when it comes to WWE and New Japan?
Oh, yeah, we touched upon it a little bit.
We did, okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, listen, it's never going to happen. It's not. I think it's just more, they might be in talks. They might be trying to do stuff, but listen, WWE doesn't have full control. They're never going to do it. They're not. They partner with these independents out there, like WXW or ICW, and they can partner with those guys and say that they're partnering with them. It's because they have full control of whatever they're doing. With something like New Japan, they're never going to put the New Japan guys on Raw or SmackDown. It would maybe be more for an NXT thing. But they're not going to have those guys come in and New Japan's not going to have their guys come in and get jobbed out, and vice versa. WWE's not going to let their guys go overseas and get jobbed out. So it just, would it be great for TV? Sure. I think some of the matches and some of the things that you could kind of, armchair quarterback and fantasy book would be awesome. But I don't think either one of the companies are going to budge when it comes to who's up and who's down and that type of thing.
I think if you ever do see it come to fruition, maybe the best way to go about it would be to see the company send a match to the rival. WWE, WWF, for all of its that can be said, they had solid relations with New Japan at one time.
Yeah.
They had the big Japan Super shows back, I think it was just a couple of days after WrestleMania 6 back in 1990, even as late as the Attitude Era. I remember Undertaker would go over, did a shot in Japan, and Vader and Shamrock did a couple of shots in Japan. And so while it's very, very rare, it's not something that's never been done before, I guess is the best way to put it. Do I anticipate it happening now or being done well now? Probably not.
If the best chance they had to doing something as far as matches go was when the New Japan guys, signed with WWE. So I'm talking AJ Styles, Shinsuke, Kenta, Gallows and Anderson. When they had all those guys come in, that would have been the perfect key time to actually do it.
Yeah.
Or even a year later. Without having all of those guys together in one company now, it just wouldn't really make much sense, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think.
It doesn't exactly inspire excitement in me, but, I'm just one person.
No, and listen, yeah, I don't know. Again, it doesn't inspire anything with me either. Do I want to see Will Ospreay come over here and maybe work AJ Styles? Yeah, I would watch that. Would I watch Will Ospreay against Drew McIntyre? Sure, I would watch it. But am I clamoring for it? No, I'm not at all. So if I'm not clamoring for it, then I don't think they should even really be talking about it.
Well, one thing that's been talked about an awful lot is the big announcement that came last night, the probably wrestling's worst-kept secret, is that SummerSlam is going to be coming from Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, on a Saturday night as opposed to the traditional Sunday, which I do like an awful lot. And it will certainly reinvent the term "feel the heat" out in Las Vegas when it will probably be 115 degrees in August.
I'm actually surprised that they're going to Vegas. Vegas is not a wrestling town. It's never been a wrestling town. I mean, geez, look at WrestleMania 9 and look at all the shows that WCW did back in the day. It's hard to sell wrestling in Vegas just because number one, that it's a time difference, so you have to put the show on in the afternoon, and it's just most people are not going to Vegas to see a wrestling show. They're going to lose all of their money, and it's just tough. It's never been a wrestling town. I wish them the best. I hope they do really good. I think they're really trying to get back whatever it is that they had, and they're going to try to have a huge show in a big stadium, and I just hope they have some good marquee matches to go along with that, and I don't know if they're going to.
Well, I mean, Vegas, it's also a place that's known for its, mainstream first-class world entertainment. Nothing against WWE's production values, but I don't think when people think of mainstream entertainment acts, they're thinking WWE wrestling. You know what I mean? I mean, even that night you have a big Pacquiao fight in the T-Mobile Arena, which is just a couple of miles away.
Are they doing it the same night?
Yes.
See, I'm very surprised at that, too. Honestly, I mean, I'm really surprised they would go head-to-head with something like that. I don't know.
Well, because of the times, the feeling is the wrestling will be done before Pacquiao goes on. But you know what?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to risk it if it was me.
I wouldn't want to either, honestly, because not for nothing, it's boxing. So you can have 3 knockouts in a row, and then Pacquiao goes on early.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult. And
who do you think's going to get the most attention that week when it comes to sports publicity? Is it going to be SummerSlam or is it going to be the boxing fight?
No, it's going to be boxing. And so it's going to be boxing because it's not around as much as, WWE. WWE, you can catch it on, you can catch it any day of the week, to be perfectly honest with you. So why would you want to see the same stuff over and over again when you can see something you haven't seen yet?
Well, I think if the 2 matches going around the rumor mill come to fruition, I think it certainly would make for a must-see event, but not 70,000 people worth of attendees.
But does it make it a must-see event? Like, are you chomping at the bit to see Bobby Lashley against Brock?
Yes.
I mean, are you really?
I've wanted to see that for years, yeah.
I don't know. I think it's going to end up being, when push comes to shove, it's going to end up being some kind of MMA style match. It's not going to be a WWE style match, and I don't think it's going to be that good. And Brock's not going to give up much. And to be perfectly honest with you, if they bring Brock in, he's going to win, and it's not going to put over Bobby Lashley. That's just my opinion, at least. And then at that point, does Brock become a babyface, and is Paul Heyman with him? So then you have to deal with that. And then they're not going to have any backstory when it comes to that type of stuff. If anything, I think the marquee match would be Roman against Brock and make Brock the babyface without Paul Heyman. And to me, that would be a storyline match worth watching, not Bobby Lashley and Brock.
It would almost be like going back to SummerSlam 92 with who was Mr. Perfect going to wind up with, Macho Man or Ultimate Warrior with Paul Heyman.
That was the one over in England, wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
he wound up with neither of them in the end, but I mean, that was the storyline tease leading into the show. Will Heyman stay with Roman, or will he go back to Lesnar?
It was a story, and it was compelling, and was who's going to turn heel, who's going to go in with Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair, but I don't know. I just don't see that they're going to end up doing it that way.
If they wanted to go the route of a stadium, I think they should have put it in your backyard down at MetLife Stadium. Because if you look at Las Vegas, not only has it been traditionally a tough town on wrestling most of the time, it's not a very big market. And when you look at the closest big cities, I mean, that are within a driving range, you have Phoenix, which is 4 hours away. You have San Diego, which is about 5 hours away. You have Los Angeles, that's 4 hours away without traffic. I mean, are they going to get that many fly-ins for SummerSlam for 115-degree heat at a time when Las Vegas, I was shocked at some of the, just the airfare and hotel prices going around that week, because I was very curious. I had an argument with one of our co-hosts that does the TV review shows with me, Mr. Carter, and he thinks it's going to be a sellout. I can't see them getting sellout.
No,
unless a lot of casinos buy up tickets to give out as comps. I can't see them even coming close to filling a football stadium for SummerSlam.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I don't think they're going to be a sellout at all. I don't think it's going to even come close. Will they have a lot of people there? Sure. But again, I think it's not even going to be. Again, go back to that WrestleMania 9, man. Like it was not a crowd that watched wrestling. It was, like you said,
freebies.
Yeah, they were freebies. It was something to do for free, and you went and watched the show. I mean, it just, I don't know. And then again, you're talking about marquee matches again. So do you want to see John Cena go against Roman Reigns again? No, I don't. I certainly don't. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I disagree with you. That's one that I would probably sit down and want to watch nowadays. It'd be interesting to see how the heel tribal chief would interact with the fruit of John Cena Sr.'s loins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the only reason why I don't want to see it is because I've seen it already. And they've already had, when I think it was just a few years back. It wasn't, though. I mean, Roman couldn't hang when it came to promos. John Cena buried him that way, and I don't mean like he did it on purpose. He just did what he did.
I think he buried him on purpose.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Roman buried himself because he couldn't carry a promo and he forgot his lines. So, like, what are you gonna do?
Well, I tell you that was when you look at booking. I will never forget how poor I believe it was No Mercy when they ran Roman and Cena for the first time the same night as they ran Lesnar and Strowman for the first time on a B pay-per-view that nobody really cared about to begin with. I thought it was just such a waste to give not only one of those matches away on a B pay-per-view, but two of them.
Yeah, I agree.
But the ratings were really starting to tank, and Monday Night Football was coming on, and I guess panic set in. But my God, you talk about those both should have been saved for a WrestleMania, in my opinion.
Yeah, and some. I don't know, man. I just don't think. Again, they're trying to pop a rating right now, and they're not writing compelling TV. It just stinks. Like I watched some of the shows this past week. I watched Raw and SmackDown, and I cringed. I really cringed. I didn't get a chance to watch AEW yet. I have it on my DVR. I got to pop that in. But
it's actually already in there. You don't have to pop it in.
No, but I got to get around to watching it, and because I've heard that Andrade showed up over there, but. I watched Raw and SmackDown. I'm like, this is just really bad. It's just really bad. Like, I don't want to watch Shayna Baszler go against this guy that can do flips and jump around the ring. And I just don't understand so I was really getting upset watching Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin. They got this guy out there, Boogs. He's playing a guitar and stuff. Shinsuke doesn't need a heater. Why would you put a heater with a baby face? It just doesn't make it's completely backwards. Doesn't make sense. I don't get it. They're fighting over a crown. Great. They're gonna probably go all the way to SummerSlam and then have a match at SummerSlam to see who's the undisputed king. But it's really really bad written TV, and it makes Shinsuke look bad. It makes Corbin look bad. I don't know what your opinion is on it, but this guy Boogs, I could do without. I think he needs to be. They could have saved money with him.
I think this one is not even worth committing to memory, as far as that goes. There's such little interest in that, and nobody cares. I will say this, maybe on a more positive note. I thought the introduction of Andrade was excellent on AEW, putting him with Vicky Guerrero, giving her something to do outside of the world of her little henchwoman, I guess, Nyla Rose. Andrade was someone I was huge on. I think if you gave him the right material, he's someone that could have been one of the main event heels on either one of the shows. And the way they flushed him down the toilet was sad, and to see him leave was even sadder. But you know what? Now it looks like he's at least, to start off with, in a much better position than Miro was when he came in with Kip Sabian and his girlfriend playing video games. I think for those that may not, maybe if it's just a quote-unquote AEW fan, having a little bit of rub from Vicky Guerrero will help. And I'm really interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. I saw a small clip of just him coming out.
That's about it.
Yeah, well, whatever it is. But, I kind of figured he was going to end up there. The only issue that I see is that, I hope AEW doesn't just go and try to scoop up guys for the sake of scooping up guys, because it's just going to get watered down, and then you're going to lose sight of the actual product. Miro seems to be kind of turning things around a little bit with his character, but he was almost dead in the water from the get go with that. They just brought Mark Henry in, so obviously he'll be more of like a coach and commentator type of thing. But I hope that Braun doesn't end up there. I hope that some of these other guys don't end up there because they're going to be dead in the water the minute they start.
Do you think it might be a smart thing to do to avoid what part of the reason of the death of WCW was? And I'll make the argument even going back to the peak of the Attitude Era in 1999. It certainly did not help when you added Thunder and SmackDown to the weekly TV shows and you had a chance to see your top guys on TV twice a week instead of just once a week. Do you think it's wise to try and create, maybe if you don't go where it's such a new company, to two different brands, quote unquote, to at least have a roster big enough so that no one is on TV more than once a week?
Yeah, I mean, I get the positioning and why they want to do that.
I don't know that they do, but I mean, if I'm Tony Khan, that's what I would want to do. Yeah. I would look at the mistakes of those two companies and say, this is what we do not want to do, is have Omega on TV twice a week, Jericho on TV. Maybe in the beginning a little bit just to try and get some eyeballs on that new time slot where it is, kind of rare, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, even though you will have a lot of wrestling fans watching after SmackDown. But, I mean, as a rule of thumb, once that new time slot is established, I wouldn't want those guys anywhere near the other show on any particular given week because it's just a recipe for overexposure and a recipe for disaster, and they don't need that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I just hope that if they're going to try not to overexpose guys, they don't use guys that they shouldn't be using. Get rid of this Dark Order and all the guys that are in that. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. They need to get rid of Luchasaurus. I think they need to revamp Jungle Boy. Like, they got Jungle Boy going for the AEW World Title. Like, come on. It just doesn't. You just know that maybe he'll have a good, decent match with Kenny Omega, but it just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know where the credibility comes from to the average person, the non-diehard wrestling fan that tunes in to that show and sees him challenging for the world title, someone that looks like they weigh maybe 140 pounds, much like the one that I like even less. And I shouldn't say that. I don't dislike Jungle Boy. I just don't think he's very credible outside of a cruiserweight division. I think the one, to me, that just makes me cringe is Orange Cassidy and that nonsense that he does. I think, to me, if you're talking about the reason why we have millions of people from the 80s and millions more from the 90s that used to enjoy what we do, that have just run from it like they were on fire, it's reasons like that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's tough because I kind of try to play devil's advocate a little bit and say, I do like the character. I like the fact that, Orange Cassidy, although I don't believe he's a heavyweight champion, I do believe there's room for him on the show. I kind of relate him to like a Santino type of thing.
Yeah, second match on the house show.
Of course, it could be your comedy thing or your cult thing or whatever the case it might be. But don't put him. He's not in a marquee. He shouldn't be in a marquee match.
No, he shouldn't be working Jericho on pay-per-view with
in an orange juice match. Yeah, it was bad TV then. It'll be bad TV tomorrow. With somebody like Jungle Boy, I don't know. Like, I don't understand the character, I guess. Maybe, everybody knows he's Luke Perry's son. Everybody knows his name is Jack Perry. Why not just call him Jack Perry? Tell him to cut his hair and kind of do something different. I don't know. Like the guy that Marco Stunt. I don't know.
Please.
Again, to me, he's like the Dink of.
He's nowadays. The Dink of that faction.
Yeah. So,
they're going to get and I don't know what your thoughts on this are, but to introduce even more titles in a promotion that has so many titles.
Yeah.
Why?
What is it? The triple T title or something like that? The trios
they're going to go lucha with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're even going to keep the TNT title, and they're not even going to be on TNT.
They're not going to be on TNT
next year. Yeah. Well, they're going to do, I guess, almost like the Clash. They're going to have a couple of a quarter would be 4 specials, but that to me, that's not enough to keep a title around for. I don't know.
No, I agree. If anything, they should change the name to a television title and just that way it could just be on TV every week. And I like the sound of that. Like it's. The TV titles, they were 10-minute matches. If you didn't pin the TV champion within 10 minutes, even if you beat them, you didn't get the title. I like that.
Well, maybe it's some big.
It's different.
Maybe it's some big pay-per-view next year. They'll have hanging from the top of Daly's place the TNT and the TBS titles hanging, and it'll be winner take all on a ladder match. Like Razor and Shawn at WrestleMania 10.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that, to be perfectly honest with you. I just hope I'm not around to see it, to be 100%. But I don't know. We'll see where things go. I think the most upside right now is AEW. They got the most to gain out of all these releases, and who knows if they can play their cards right. Maybe they need to do some budget cuts and get rid of some of their dead weight and then bring in some of these new guys.
Where I would begin and what I would add.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It'd be interesting to see how the weeks and months go on. I can't wait to see how SummerSlam kind of unfolds, because I think they got what do they have? Hell in the Cell before that?
Hell in the Cell is 2 weeks from tonight, when we'll have Marty Jannetty with us live, for which will probably make for some must-see TV.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Marty Jannetty is always must-see. That guy, I've been around that guy probably more times than I can count, and to see some of the things and the antics he gets into, it's definitely something that you want to tune into.
And then they'll have Money in the Bank July 18th. So 2 pay-per-view stops before we get to the biggest party of the summer, so to speak, where we will feel the heat in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I'm going to feel the heat from Las Vegas, Nevada, is if I'm going to be out there, and I'm telling you right now, I won't be out there. So I won't be feeling the heat.
What disappoints me is someone that loves Las Vegas so much, because of the virus and all the postponements, the Cauliflower Alley Club is just a couple of weeks later after that. So it's like, I can't miss that.
No, so you'll be going out for the Cauliflower Alley, right?
We will have some great footage for the fans from the Cauliflower Alley Club as well, correct?
That's awesome.
I don't know if I'll be feeling the heat for SummerSlam, though.
Well, it's unfortunate. You know, it's crazy. We talk about the Cauliflower Alley Club. It's something that I've always wanted to go out to, and I've never gotten a chance to go. I don't know why I haven't gone out to it yet, but I don't know if I'll go this year, but I got to get there at least one time before.
It's not easy to get to, you know? I mean, virtually 2 days of travel to some extent, depending upon how you book your flights and whatnot. But I think it's worth it. I love to go, and hopefully I'll continue to go. And you would have enjoyed it more back when the first time I went in September of '95, when George Napolitano fronted the East Coast versions of the reunion.
Yeah, I mean,
that would have been easy for you.
Now, I'm trying to think. The Cauliflower Alley Club, is that associated with the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame that used to be in New York?
Nope.
And that is now in Texas? They're not associated, right?
They're associated with no one other than themselves.
Oh, okay.
They're a private, non-profit organization.
Yeah, I know I did a lot of the stuff with the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame when they first started.
Yes, we were at that first dinner together.
Yeah, so...
May of 02.
That was interesting. I met Red Bastien at that one. That was crazy.
Gary Michael Capetta said he wanted to pet the tiger.
I love Gary Michael Capetta. Come on. He's a great guy.
He is.
He's a great guy.
He is. He just wanted to go to the zoo. That's all.
Well, he didn't go that day, but maybe he went with somebody else. He just didn't go with me. Anyway.
Are we forgetting anything before we go?
No, I think we shit on the business a little bit too much this week, and we got to kind of wrap it up.
We'll have to come up with something more positive for next week, other than Andrade's debut.
Yeah, I'll be waiting for it, and I'll keep my fingers crossed for it, but I won't count my chickens before they're hatched.
All right, wrestling fans, you heard it from Tiger Mulligan himself every Sunday night, I should say, at 7 p.m. We keep it stern but fair. This week, again, don't forget big, brand new episodes. We have Oscar of Men on a Mission. We have another Tony Atlas classic. Making his Wrestling Insider debut Wednesday night at 7 p.m. will be WWE Hall of Famer Jerry Briscoe. Thursday night at 7, we party with Marty. And then before SmackDown goes live from the Thunderdome Friday night, it's John Cena Sr.'s Fabulous Fridays, if we can pry him off of Majo Ouellette, or maybe the other way around. For Tiger Mulligan, I'm Dan Marati. We'll see you next week. Same bad time, same bad station. Good night. The World Wrestling Federation was live at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium in Lowell, Massachusetts, Friday, June the 6th, 1997. In the opening contest, Doug Furness and Phil LaFawn beat the Headbangers. Hunter Hearst Helmsley with the win over Scott Taylor. The New Blackjacks defeated the Godwins. D'Lo Brown victorious over Flash Funk. Brian Pillman beat Jesse James. Ahmed Johnson with the win over Savio Vega. And in the main event, WWF Tag Team Champion Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Psycho Sid defeated WWF Intercontinental Champion Owen Hart, WWF European Champion Davey Boy Smith, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who replaced Bret Hart. If you were in Lowell Live, share your memories in the comment section below. Use the links in the description box to keep Wrestling Legends working in our eBay store and on our world-renowned Patreon streaming service so we can bring you more interactive superstar shoot interviews to relive the good old days of professional wrestling. Check it out. Boston wrestling sports in the MWF explodes into a new year with professional wrestling content galore and need you to join our family. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. after our Monday Night Raw review, it's Wrestling Insiders at your house with WWE Hall of Famer Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. after NXT and AEW, join rotating legends on Wrestling Insiders Special Edition. Every Thursday night at 10 p.m. after our NXT and Dynamite review, it's Marty Jannetty's No Holds Barred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll Journey on Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty. Friday night after SmackDown, don't miss John Cena Sr.'s Wrestling Insiders Fabulous Fridays. Plus, look for classic clips, history videos, bonus live episodes, pay-per-view watch-alongs, and more. For less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks, get early ad-free access to our Wrestling Insider talk shows, our acclaimed Studio Shoot interview DVD library, and help keep Wrestling Legends working during the worst of times. Join our growing family at patreon.com/Boston Wrestling. Expect the unexpected in 2021.